A University of Michigan student from China who is not a United States citizen allegedly voted in this election. And he's been charged with 2 crimes just days before this pivotal presidential election. The left, not surprisingly, wants to just brush this aside, and some say it's an extremely rare event. To them, it's not a problem, even though this non-citizen's vote is still going to count. So every vote counts and matters, but the counting of a non-citizen's vote is okay to wave off as nothing. Not a big deal. Well, here now to discuss this news is Congressman Chip Roy, who has been leading the fight to protect U.S. elections. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee, the Rules Committee, and the Budget Committee. He represents the 21st Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Roy, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Tony, great to be on. As you can see, I've been out campaigning for Ted around the state of Texas, and it's great to be on the show.
So this story is more common than the left would like to admit, is it not?
Well, it is. And, what we've got is we see actual evidence where you now saw Virginia, where they cleaned off 1,500 from their rolls. And the very same leftist progressive activists that were telling us that the SAVE Act was unnecessary back in July, when we passed it out of the House of Representatives. Unfortunately, Chuck Schumer is sitting on it in the Senate. The SAVE Act, as a reminder, is a requirement, a bill that I authored, that would require documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. Democrats said, "Oh, you don't need that; it's already against the law." But then they turn around and they sue Virginia to say, "Hey, you guys can't do the work that you're doing to clean the voter rolls off." So which is it, right? I mean, the hypocrisy is palpable. It does happen, and it happens regularly. Particularly, we battle it here in Texas. The Secretary of State and I have had conversations. And here's the dirty little secret. We can't even go through as a state and use the right databases from the feds without having to sue to get it. The Secretary of State of Florida had to sue to get access to the database in order to try to fight to clean off the voter rolls. So this is all purposeful. It's why they're dumping 5.5 million people into this country and endangering us in the process, Tony.
Well, Chip, I don't know if you've probably not had a chance to look at the details of this. I've been reading the stories, what we're seeing in the media saying, well, he's been charged with 2 crimes now, so they're on top of this. It's being handled by the Democratic authorities there in Michigan. But if you read the story and the details coming out of Michigan, the only reason it appears that this student was caught is that he actually went back after he voted and asked if he could somehow get his ballot back. And it's only then that they began to make the inquiry about the fact that he voted illegally. So most likely would have never come to the surface had he not gone back and tried to retract his ballot.
Well, this is one of the reasons why it's so important that we enact the legislative changes to give more power to states and to put more requirements in place federally. Interestingly, on Fox News last week, after the state of Virginia was successful in this litigation, my friend Chuck Cooper was the lead lawyer on that, and they were successful. They won. They got the Supreme Court to stay the full-headed order by the district judge. But interestingly, the Governor Youngkin, he said on Fox, "Hey, we really need to pass the SAVE Act. I mean, I'm happy that we won in Virginia, but we've got to pass the federal legislation that is necessary in order to guarantee that not only is there a federal requirement, but that states have all the tools necessary and the power necessary to clean off the voter rolls." Because even when they try now, they're running into barriers like you just outlined, where it's difficult to track this, it's difficult to find it. And when you do, it's difficult to match it against the federal databases to ensure citizenship.
So what you have in this case in Michigan, this ballot will be counted. Even though it was cast illegally, there's no way to get it back out. And so what you had proposed and what the House passed was to say you can't register to vote. You have to prove this up front even to be registered to vote, which it makes perfect sense. Why would you allow someone to register to vote if they weren't a citizen and they couldn't vote? Why not just, this is like, let's just keep the alcoholics out of the bar. I mean, it makes more sense than try to take them and sober them up.
Well, no, that's exactly right, Tony. I mean, and look, I just want to be pretty blunt. This is all purposeful by our radical progressive Democrat colleagues. This is why they're dumping 5.5, almost 6 million people into the United States, not including gotaways. That's why that they have been, opposing every effort that we've made to try to pass legislation to fix it. So take, for example, they obviously opposed H.R. 2, but then they opposed the SAVE Act. Only 5 Democrats voted for it, and Chuck Schumer won't move it in the Senate. They opposed our legislation to make sure that we are only having citizens counted in the census for purposes of apportionment, which you know well as a former member of Congress how important that is. And in fact, it might have a consequential impact on the election even this week in terms of having too many districts that are weighed with the number of folks who are here illegally when we're talking about millions of folks. So it's all very real. It's all a big problem, needs to be addressed. This is why the election tomorrow matters. And unfortunately, we're in that place where we need to win too big to rig tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got to turn out and vote. Chip Roy, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. And tell Ted I said hello.
I will. Governor Perry said with regards as well. God bless.
All right, good. Tell him I said hello.